You know, there's nothing like a little impromptu ghost town flat tracking at the 40 Mile Roadhouse. Welcome back to TSN's Motorcycle Experience as we continue our tour of the Yukon here on the top of the World Highway. Now, we've been adventure sport touring on this Kawasaki, but there are certainly other ways to tour here in Canada. Take sport touring, for example. One of the best motorcycles for that job is Honda's venerable ST1100. This summer, the ST heads into its 11th year of production, and according to Honda officials, it's selling as well today as it ever has. Designed from the ground up to be both sporty and touring, the ST is powered by a transverse V4 engine that was purpose-built by Honda with an automotive approach. The emphasis here, torque and durability. In 1994, Honda added a second model with ABS and traction control. For this week's impression of the ST, we invited Ken Edick, a dedicated touring rider who owns both a Honda Goldwing and a Kawasaki Concourse, to sample the ST, along with veteran racer Dave Grummett.
Hey Ken, while we're taking some refuge out of the rain, I know you don't get a whole lot of rain on this bike. Tell me, I know you just got back from Americade. Tell me how this motorcycle would fare at Americade.
It's a very popular model at Americade. Americade being one of the, or is touted as the world's largest touring rally, meaning that this is typically a gathering of people that do a fair amount of mileage as opposed to trailering their bikes type thing.
That's where this bike excels, is the mileage?
You bet. The ergonomic position is very, very peaceful. There's no stress points on your wrists or your back or your leg. There's a lot of leeway in that positioning shuffle. And the fairing takes a lot of the brunt of high-speed distance off of your upper chest, your arms, legs, very well protected. And on a day like today, when we were running into some significant rain, there's quite an envelope of protection right down to your feet. And that's a big plus when you're out there on the road for weeks at a time. Okay, now part of the neat thing about this motor and why this bike is so different, there's a lot of, you know, your flat six and your Goldwing. The inline 4, this thing is a V4 and it's not mounted like a VF800 this way, it's actually mounted V this way. So how do you think that? It works out great in the handling. It's a very smooth riding bike. I guess for the accessibility for some of the maintenance work you can do, it allows that part of the engine to be readily accessible once a little bit of plastic is taken off. But it affords a very good performer and balance for all kinds of riding. Yeah, one of the things I noticed, and we talked a little bit about it, is it doesn't rev very high. And I found, coming from a sport bike background, that I was always trying to it never sounds like it's working, so I was always hitting the rev limiter at the first. I guess I'm on the other side. Being into touring, low revs for the long-term ride is what you're looking for to keep that noise level down. You don't want a drone that can wear on you hour after hour. And this is right in that same ballpark, and you don't need to get the high revs to get the torque that this thing does. Now, unlike your Concourse, which I think is a chain drive, is that correct? This one gets the power to the back? No, the Concourse is also shaft drive. That's the nice comparison on them. They're shaft drive, liquid cooled, which is one of the things that a long distance tourer looks for. You want to be making it as maintenance free as possible, because our goal is to get out there and cover the miles, not be making adjustments. So with the kind of mileage I'm talking about, you only have to change the rear hypoid gear oil maybe once a year, even for the mileages we're talking. And liquid cooled adds to the longevity of the engine because it's always at that optimum operating temperature and doesn't have to go through the extremes of an air temperature. Yeah, and it's quieter too. For sure, yeah. That's one thing that a lot of people can't get used to, is how quiet it is. It isn't reminiscent of what the motorcycle sound is. Yeah, and with the shaft drive and with this V4 design, do you find much torque? Enough for the kind of riding that I do. Again, we're not typically a rider that's looking for 0 to 60 performance. Our idea of a good drag race is from here to Colorado. And this can do it because it's set up for the mid-range torque. Not necessarily the torque off the line, but it's no slouch in that department either. Now, if you're going to do that kind of mileage, does this have enough capacity to support you? It fits right in with the whole concept. The judgment for saddlebag capacity is, number one, can it house a full-size helmet? Not a shorty, not a half helmet. And that's usually a standard for a good cubic capacity, is can it house the helmet.
And in this particular one, it's a little deceiving because a little of the spacing is integrated within the confines of the bike. So from the outside or straight on the back, it may not look like it's capable of it. And yet they have very good weatherproof latchings, which is a plus. And within it, although it's got a few items in it right now, the helmet will be completely housed in that area, and that's just a judgment for comparing storage.
Okay, with this bike, Honda's borrowed a little bit from its car technology. It offers both ABS, the anti-lock braking system, and TCS, which you tell me is traction control. What are your thoughts on that?
I think it's a great feature. I haven't yet convinced myself to physically go out there and try the ABS, but I'm well aware of its merits by using it in a car. And the traction control is building on that same mechanism by retarding the ignition should the back wheel start to break loose under hard acceleration. Not a feature that you see on a lot of bikes, and not one that I would have thought was for somebody in the sport touring range. I would have thought people that have got a lot more horsepower.
Or
one that could
Hayabusa
easily
or something
apply
like that.
But the nice thing is if you want that kind of freedom, you can override the system and go back to conventional and have the back
do
wheel
your burnouts and wheelies and all those things you normally do on your sport
It's hard to
tour.
impress them if the back wheel won't do the burnout that you were building up to. I'm a firm believer of the bikes that if it's working well, leave it alone. Why change for the sake of change? And the fact that, 10 years, virtually the bike is unchanged aside from color. It's a fantastic bike. It does everything that I think they approach the market to do, and it does it very, very well. And I think to that testament is the nice thing that there are bikes that have come and gone in much shorter period of time. This has stood the test of time because it's done right and done right the first time. And what minor flaws there may have been, I've been hard-pressed to find any, and so it just keeps building on a fine, reputable machine, and has got a club, ST Owners Club, which enhances that by letting them share the knowledge of a fine machine.
All right, well great, thanks Ken.
Thank you.